We greet our friends everywhere with Chapter 1 of Thunder in the Heather, the story of John Knox. This is another in the series, Stories of Great Christians, and comes to you from the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. Scotland, in the mid-16th century, was a land of rebellion and bloodshed. Throughout the history of the Middle Ages, the Roman Church had been supreme over the souls of the Scots. In the passing of the centuries, the Church grew corrupt, until men in all countries began to cry out against the moral decay of the Roman system. In Germany, Martin Luther had already become the leader of the Reformation there. His Saxon voice was heard not only through Europe, but across the English Channel and into the politically troubled highlands and lowlands of the Catholic Kingdom of Scotland. Already the stake had silenced some who defied the Roman Church or Kirk. Yet the question grew more urgent in the eyes and hearts of the Scots. Who would be the man to rise up against these powers and save Scotland from ruin?
John Knox, you've been a priest of the church for up to 8 years, and you're still worrying and wailing and looking for a bit of perfection on her. What's the matter with you, man?
I cannot peek through my fingers as you can.
The trouble with you is you've no sense of humor.
And how can a man laugh when the other priests go lady-chasing when they should be saying prayers, and not 1 in 10 of them knows anything more than how to recite the Mass?
But how the exceptions shine.
I'm sickened, Campbell. If you'd have been with me yesterday at the Franciscans, even what you say through your fingers would have been much too much for your stomach.
I don't see anything that bothers me. I just cover my eyes. See here, my man. If you want to worry about those money-mad Franciscans, you can worry all the way to Rome and see where it'll get you. But will you please leave off trying to make me as sour a man as you?
Scotland will not escape the wrath of God for her wickedness. Surely something must be done.
Perhaps you cry to God for something to be done, and it will be done, dear friends. This is not only a time of evil, it is a time of God's merciful visitation. God's children must return to Him and purify themselves by the blood of Christ. God will not excuse you because your priests are sinful. Your responsibility to God is for your own soul.
It doesn't look like we'll look well for a priest to be standing gaping at his own condemnation.
Who is he?
Well, you'll find out if you'll walk along with me. Standing in crowds like this makes my collar a mite tight. Come on.
Well?
I believe the man's name is George Wishart. He's been in England, was a tutor at Cambridge University, came back to Scotland by invitation of some of the Protestant lords in the lowlands. He's not making himself popular with Cardinal Beaton by his public lectures. And although I hate to look on the gloomy side, Knox, I fear that tongue of his has not long to wag.
I wonder if Mr. Major has heard him.
You can ask him quick enough if he's at home.
He'll be in. He expects me on Tuesdays.
John, if you're half as loyal to the kirk as you are to your old teacher, you'd find fewer troubles in your teacup.
Mr. Major is a wise Scot. He understands the times.
Hello, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Knox. A very broad day to you.
Who's calling?
In the door of the pub.
Hello, Mr. Morris.
Will you not join us, masters?
We're on an errand, Mr. Morris.
Off hunting quail, Mr. Campbell?
No.
He knows your weakness, Mr. Campbell.
Come on, if you're coming. We haven't got all day, man.
In a minute, I've a word for Patrick Morris. You were not at Mass last Sunday, Mr. Morris. I cannot understand that.
Master Knox, I was wanting to mention that to you myself. I really haven't been feeling fit since Stephen's Day, when I had the fever. And last Sunday morning, I believe I had a touch of it again. But I really couldn't get out of bed.
Fever ale is more like it.
All the same, Mr. Morris. I suppose you'll be at confession on Saturday.
First in line, Father.
Come on, John. Why do you bother with the rogue?
He's in my parish. He ought to come to Mass. See you Saturday, Patrick.
Aye, Father. Good day to you.
Well, you did your duty, John. I don't know why you don't let the scoundrel be. You know he won't come. Well, let's be off. or your old teacher will think you're not coming at all.
What are you doing, yelling after the priest like a daft bairn, Patrick Morris? Give me the drink you promised.
Move away from the door, wench. Look, lads, there's a tear in Beth's eye here. She's weeping tears to see the priest go.
Maybe that I am, too.
Come on, Patrick. We'll drink to the priest instead of with him for a change.
To our colleagues, the men of the club.
Well, now, John, we'll see if your Mr. Major is always home on a Tuesday. You sure you won't mind an extra visitor?
You welcome anyone with a serious interest in the land of Scotland and her heartaches.
I don't know how we got on together, John Knox. You can't resist a sermon, and I can't bring myself to give one.
Ah, Master Knox, Mr. Major has been looking for you.
Come in, John.
I brought a friend with me, Mr. Major.
I didn't know you had any, John. Sir, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Douglas Campbell, Mr. Major.
How do you do, sir?
From the Highlands by the sound of you, yes? Well, do sit down, the two of you. Perhaps you'll have a little wine to refresh yourselves.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Are you a notary priest like John, Mr. Campbell?
It's true I'm a notary, but not like John, sir.
Oh, I can see that. I didn't think you lose much sleep over the state of the world or the price of a tankard of ale, either.
No, sir, I don't.
And my old pupil, John, here. He never closes his eyes on the woes of the world, do you, John?
You opened my eyes to much of the world, Mr. Major, and it comes to me that it gets worse and worse.
Our land is in desperate trouble, it's true. Sometimes my spirit aches within me. The kirk seems to be crumbling, and with her goes our whole government. But reform is the answer, gentlemen.
Would you reform the Cardinal Beaton and the bishops? Would you cleanse the monasteries of their cash boxes? Would you teach the priests to read the Bible? It's hopeless. The kirk is sick unto death, and washing of the body will not bring the life back.
And what would you do, John?
I don't know.
The whole structure of our government is dependent on remaining within the protection of the Roman Church. France is our only ally against the foul Protestant England, and her seeking to swallow Scotland. How long would we be the friend of France if Scotland were the enemy of the Pope?
And you feel certain that if Scotland were to break away from the Pope, she would lose the support of France and be defenseless against the tyranny of the English?
I know it. Henry of England would march against us the second Scotland was without the military protection of the Pope. And what armies have we to stand against the might of England?
Perhaps there is a worse tyranny than that of England.
That's where you're wrong, Knox. My skin crawls at the thought of the Union Jack flying over Scottish hills.
And mine. I would give my life for this dear land.
So, there you are, John. Perhaps the kirk is weak and even evil, but it is the kirk. To betray it is to betray Scotland. We must work to save them both.
I feel more and more that it is hopeless, Mr. Major. Yet something must be done.
You sound like our friend Mr. Wishart, John.
George Wishart? Do you know him?
We heard him preaching on the street on the way here.
He had quite a crowd of dirtmen and scavengers and men from the pubs hanging on his every word. Even made me feel a bit uneasy, going on about the bad state of the kirk and us standing there with our mouths open listening to him.
Yet there was much in what he said.
I'm sure there was. But his way cannot be our way, John.
Why?
He has been much influenced by the German heretic Martin Luther and preaches against the Mass, the veneration of the saints, and many of the foundations of the Roman kirk. It's not only the abuses of the kirk he's against, it's the kirk itself. Yet the Protestant nobles in the lowlands support him strongly.
Do they seriously hope to overthrow the King of Scotland in the court?
They do, and establish the new religion in Scotland.
I've laid out the supper, Mr. Major.
Ah, good. You must stay, gentlemen. After all this weary talk, a bit of life refreshment will be a welcome change. Well, John, I thought I had some good news for you today, but I confess I've been holding it back. I'm not sure it is good news now.
Good or bad, let's hear it.
You've been saying for some time now that you're getting weary of the work of the notary.
I am. I've given 7 years to it, Mr. Major, and I've less love for it now than when I started, which was precious little then.
There's a tutoring job if you want it.
If I want it. What's the matter with it?
From the look of Mr. Major, John, it must be in England.
Surely it's not...
No. What would Protestant England want with another priest? They're doing all they can to get rid of the ones they do have. No, this position is with the family of Hugh Douglas in Longniddry.
And why is this not good news, Mr. Major?
In your present unsettled state of mind, John,
Oh, no. They're Protestants.
unfortunately, Mr. Douglas is a strong member of the Protestant party. In fact, he's up to his neck in plans of one sort and another with a whole bunch of the dissenting notals. I'm afraid a real storm is brewing, John. Perhaps it wouldn't be good to get mixed up in it.
I keep to myself.
It's true, Mr. Major. As it is, I don't think John knows more than 5 priests in Haddington. I can't imagine him getting friendly with a lot of English sympathizers.
I'll be friendly enough to tell them the blot they are upon the face of Scotland, that's sure.
Then you don't want to do tutor?
I don't feel I'm serving the kirk or country where I am. I'm so restless. But perhaps if I take to the studies again, I'll do better with myself.
The change may be good for you, but to be so closely associated with such men... You know, John, the answer to our times is not the overthrow of the kirk or the government. Remember, king and pope stand or fall together in the land of Scotland.
I feel like you're bearing again.
Forgive me if I'm too much the teacher, John. It's just that I have little stomach to see my old pupil at the stake.
Well, now, John, how much longer have I to see a merry face bending over the papers beside me?
Mr. Major?
I suppose Mr. Douglas is waiting for a tutor to fill the position.
Then I should leave for Longniddry as soon as possible.
Aye.
You'll do well without my company over the ledgers, Campbell. No one to be worrying and wailing all the day.
True, I was getting accustomed to it. Ah, well.
With thanks for the fine supper, Mr. Major, I feel, in the light of the present news, I'd better be attending to my business.
Richard, he's there. The new tutor is here. He just got out of the carriage. Come on.
We'll see him at supper. Let's finish our game.
He's not at all like Master Robert.
Is he young or old?
I didn't know. He's got a beard. He looks cross.
It doesn't matter.
It does to me. I don't want a sewer teacher.
He won't be here long. Father says if his plan works, there won't be a priest left in Scotland.
And so we conclude Chapter 1 of Thunder in the Heather, the story of John Knox. This is another in the series, Stories of Great Christians, and comes to you from the radio studios of the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago.